Hey guys, listen, I get a lot of questions, and typically whether it's a simple question or a pretty complex question, I take the time to type them out and answer your questions the best I can. I thought it'd be kind of cool to do them on here in a video form, so if there's some things that maybe I didn't cover and you guys catch, you can chime in down below in the comments and help these people out. Jerry from Lansing, Michigan has a question about drying time between coats when painting. There's a specific reason why we wait 15 minutes, 20 minutes between coats. Typically, the way paint dries, the solvents have to outgas. They have to come to the surface. If you do it too soon and that top surface kind of hardens over, the solvents will come to the top and it'll leave little pimples and bubbles in the surface of the clear. So by allowing it to wait a little bit longer, all that outgassing comes out before you put the next coat on. So if you get too many coats built up too quickly, the top will dry and the bottom will stay wet. It does a couple of things. One is sitting in the sun, that starts to outgas, it'll leave some pimples in the top. Number two, when you go to buff, if you're going to sand and buff the surface, when you go to buff this, the metallic may start moving around because of the bottom not being dried. So it's very important to follow those dry times between coats. I hope that helps, Jerry. Tony from Georgia asks the difference between long tube and short tube headers, which is better? Obviously the long tube headers are better. They help scavenge and pull the exhaust gases out. But there are some situations where you have no choice but to run a shorty. Just not enough space to run a long tube header or ground clearance and things of that nature. So it's not that one's better than the other. Well, I shouldn't say that. Long tube header is better than a shorty, but it's more dictated by the situation. If you have a choice and you can fit a long tube, use the long tube. I hope that helps. Harold from Maine, similar question, wants to know what's better, a coated header or a stainless steel header. They're both good, okay? The coated header will dissipate heat considerably faster than the stainless header. Stainless headers will last a long time, but if you're running a situation where you have, say, a muffler hanging on a header and just a turn down, so there's a lot of weight hanging on it, stainless has a tendency to crack over a period of time. It's a very hard metal. Instead of bending or denting, it'll crack. So I prefer the coated headers. That's more of a preference thing than it is which is better. Stainless are great, no issues. Over time they will crack. I hope that helps, Harold. And then we have Thomas. Thomas from Las Vegas. Thomas wants to know how much cubic inch is too much and what is streetable. Well, Thomas is building a big block Camaro. And interestingly enough, I did a lot of research recently on big blocks and had the same question. Today's technology has brought us so far, with heads and intakes and so on. We can now run big block Chevrolets pushing 600, 700, 800 horsepower on pump gas. That's such a far cry from where we were 20 years ago. I mean, 20 years ago to get 800 horse, you had to run racing fuel and 12-to-1 compression. That world is gone. Today, I mean, you can build some pretty crazy motors pushing out monster horsepower and still be very streetable. So you start looking at, well, what's the price difference? Well, if you take the 632, the 572, and the 540, they are all relatively between $10,000 and $12,000. So not really a price issue. They're all about the same. You might as well go for the 632. I mean, there's no substitute for cubic inches. They're running 632s on pump gas today. Blueprint Engines, for example, has a 632 that pushes out 815 horse, 775 foot-pounds of torque. That's a monster motor. Is it streetable? Hell yeah. These things are running on pump gas. If you go a little further, let's say you get involved in maybe the Holley EFI systems. They're self-learning. Not only are they self-learning, but they are laptop compatible, so you could get in there and tune it yourself if you wanted. But being self-learning, you can actually wire in your distributor so it controls timing as well as fuel. So now you're not only getting tremendous amount of horsepower, but you're getting fuel economy as well. The average big block, you might get 7, 8 miles to the gallon. Using this injection system where you can control the timing as well as the fuel, I've seen these things get 8, 10 miles to the gallon. So my world, there's no substitute for cubic inches. They cost about the same, whether you're going to go with a 502 GM Performance motor or a Blueprint 632. I'd go for the cubic inches. You know, money's relatively close to the same. Horsepower is tremendously better. Streetability is exactly the same. They still run on pump gas. So I hope that helps. And let me know what you think of this little forum here doing questions. And if you have any questions, please post them and I'll see if I can do to answer them. Have a good week.